It is 5 in the morning when two Portage County Ohio sheriff deputies stop at the side of the road to investigate an abandoned truck. Suddenly, they hear this strange, low humming noise, and when they turn around, a giant UFO is hovering overhead. The UFO rises from behind the trees and hovers over them, drenching them in the ground with light. Grab your tinfoil hats and some popcorn. We're covering the UFO incident in 1966 that is said to have inspired Spielberg's sci fi classic, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hometown Haunts podcast, a show that brings strange and spooky stories from around the world to your neck of the woods. I am one of the fabulous hosts of the show, Kat Cloco, and along with me are my equally amazing friends and co-hosts, Christina Wald and Jen Kohler.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. How is it snowing in Cincinnati?
It's not much. Well, I mean, it didn't look like that much. We've got a little bit. I don't know how much
Yeah.
we're expected to get.
I think I read somewhere 1 to 3 inches, and like the last time I looked, I don't think the ground, like the pavement, is covered, just like the grass and stuff.
It did. Yeah, it didn't look. It
Yeah.
looked really pretty outside. It looked like
It
a pretty
did.
snow scene.
I
Yeah.
love it when it's snowing. The sound of snow hitting the ground is my favorite sound.
Yeah,
Aw.
So
it's a nice
serene.
sound. I always like the quietness after it snows
Mhm.
and the crunch.
Yes.
Mhm.
One of my
Yes.
favorite things is to run through and destroy fresh snow.
Well, that's cool. That's
You
cool.
are not alone, Jen.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun.
Last week it snowed here a lot on the mountain to the point where we couldn't get out of our driveway. It was an ice rink and we got several inches. Everything was closed. We had our bread and bananas, which is a
Do you have your
thing
milk?
here. And well, yes, and milk.
Okay.
My goodness. We did a Costco run and Mike got 4 gallons of milk.
4 gallons.
That's a lot of
4
milk.
gallons of milk. Each one of them is in a gallon container. And so they're in our freezer. Like 3 of them are in our freezer.
Awesome.
That's what we do now. If we have a freezer and we freeze things in it. And everyone's like, that's brilliant, Kat.
Yeah.
That's so
Mhm.
newsworthy. Cat learns to freeze things. There's no bodies in that freezer. It's just milk and chicken.
Not yet.
Hey, I guess not eggs these days, since they cost.
Oh my goodness.
Since they're
Yeah.
catching up with Fabergé eggs.
Oh,
I haven't bought eggs in a minute, so I haven't really been paying
We
attention.
actually Ohio is one of the big producers of eggs, so they're not that crazy here. It's more
No.
places where there aren't poultry.
We had $7.99 a dozen last week.
Yeah, they last time I bought them they were 4 something.
Oh my gosh.
Costco had them for $8.99 for 2 dozen, so we grabbed. And
That's not so bad.
No, that was much more reasonable. So we grabbed a carton of that. And I think on Blue Sky I wrote, I feel wealthy by eating an egg for lunch.
Right?
With my lunch, because yeah, I was like,
living large.
precious, so precious.
So
Oh, now I want an omelet.
It will be
we could
trimmed in
transform the
gold, man.
podcast into a cooking show.
Yeah.
Cooking and ghosts.
Apparently we're hungry. Cooking and ghosts. That'd be fun.
Exactly.
Cooking with ghosts.
Well,
Cooking with
the
ghosts.
Pillsbury Doughboy does look a lot like Casper the Ghost. So
He does.
Does.
Was the
Yeah.
Pillsbury Doughboy perhaps some sort of mishap baker?
Don't start
That-
conspiracies, man.
It's just ectoplasm. Surprise.
He does seem strangely around baking products.
Made
Yeah.
out of icing.
I was just thinking actually of the person who bakes or cooks people's recipes that they've left them on their headstones.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've
now that
always
sounds
I
interesting.
have not seen one of those, and I really want to. Like, how do you find those? You just walk around.
There's got to be
cemeteries?
websites or something that has
Find a
them.
grave. Like, yeah, I'm sure there's websites like people who are just enthusiastic about strange graves and unique graves. Like Road Trippers has a section on their website for oddities. And sorry, Chewy just walked through and he's like, "Hey, I'm a cool dog." Um, and it may be on there. Like I know the Ouija board gravestone is on it in
Oh,
Oh,
Baltimore.
okay.
cool.
So yeah, and then like the dollhouse graves, I think were on it too.
Mhm.
Well, that's good. That might be a future episode, perhaps.
Ooh, food from
Recipes
the
on
dead.
graves. It like combines everything.
It sounds like a fun video to make, though.
Yeah.
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 Hi,
But
babe.
anyway, I guess show news before we get to UFOs. Or not, what do they call them now? They're not UFOs anymore. It's AF or
Oh goodness. Oh, I forgot.
UFA? No.
no, they've got a new name. You're not supposed to call them UFOs anymore.
Yeah.
It's
UAPs.
like UAP, that's what it is. It doesn't have the same ring.
It does not.
No.
It does not have the marketing value. of
UAP sounds
UFO.
like a union name. United.
UAP.
Anomalous.
Unidentified anomalous. Anomalous.
Pterodactyl.
Jensen, stop it.
This is,
Damn it,
this is
cat.
one of those
Jensen
animal
being Jen's
episodes.
new cat.
Yeah,
Kitten.
dummy. You shouldn't stick your claws in things.
Did he fry himself? What happened to Jensen?
He was sticking his claw into a binder of negatives that I have, and he got his little claw stuck in a metal, in the metal
Oh.
part.
That
And what does
Can't-
he do? He goes right back for it.
They learn.
Do they? This one doesn't.
I didn't die, so it must be safe.
Anytime I tell him no, it's the thing he constantly goes back to because he's like, I want it. And these are not my negatives; they're my friends. And if he destroys them, I'm going to murder him.
Well, that just sounds
Aw.
messy.
Kitty. Boop.
Kittens
Anyway,
are just
Christina,
Sorry.
show news.
yeah. Oh,
Sorry.
Putting aside Jen threatening her cat.
well, I just bought my ticket to go to Italy, so that's a good start.
Yay!
So,
Oh, that's exciting.
but we're still, if people still want to come and do the workshop, we still have a couple spots open, and we're just now promoting for going to Romania in September. So, if people want to go to that, it should be a really exciting trip. I know I've been getting, since I've started promoting it, some of my friends over there have been contacting me and they're excited to sketch with us again. I mean, that's what sets our trip a little bit from others, is that we actually hang out with local artists and draw with them, which I can't think of any other tour that does that.
No, I can't either.
Pretty cool. Last time when we were there, the person that runs the Bucharest Urban Sketchers chapter is an architect. Like there's a lot of architects, and they took us to an architect party where they had all these cartoons and like zines that they used to do back during communism that had all this subversive cartoons and language kind of that we'll probably be developing our own sort of materials in the next 4 years, similar to this, where it was sort of subversive cartoons and newsletters that were against the Communist Party.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't get caught. And so perhaps there will be a new zine culture now that will have its own symbols and secrets that will, underground, truly underground. So that was really exciting and interesting.
Yeah.
And, it's a really great trip, and I'm trying to get my travelogue done, but obviously my picture book I'm working on, and I'm working on the Kew Gardens book, which has to be done before I leave too. So we'll see. I have to sleep too. So there is that. But so a lot going on. I'm also doing a workshop online on painting animal portraits on the 22nd. So if anyone's interested in that, they can contact me, and you can either be a patron for that, or they're $10 a workshop online. So that's what's going on with me. What's going on with you? I mean, obviously we have the kickoff coming up.
Yeah, we do. We have the kickoff party for the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities Haunts and Horrors, and that will be February 28th at the Indy Northern Kentucky Small Press Bookstore in Dayton, Kentucky. And that is we're working with the Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Comics Club plus Indie Northern Kentucky to do this book launch. And we'll have book signings, live comic readings, and original art on display from the anthology. It should be a lot of fun. So I hope everyone can make it. And then the following weekend, so not the following weekend, literally the next day, is Frogman Festival. It's the 3rd annual Frogman Festival at the Oasis, was it the convention hall in Loveland, Ohio, and that's March 1st and 2nd. It's 2 days now, so double the fun. Woo! That one's
Yay!
fun. There's so many cryptid cosplayers. That's really what I look forward to, is seeing all the different cosplayers that visit the table. We will have the brand new Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities Haunts and Horrors book out for sale that day, plus the other 2 back issues. There is Jensen looking adorable, and yeah, that. And I just finished a special Loveland Frogman print
Oh,
that will
neat.
be available
Can
at
you
the
give
table
us a
as well.
sneak preview or?
I can't because I
Oh,
don't have the
excited.
sketchbook here.
Oh, no. I
Okay.
mean, I think Love from Frogman may be the most popular
Oh wait,
cryptid
I do.
besides.
Do you want to
it-
see the
Yeah,
sketch?
of course we
Yes.
do. Ooh, I love it.
Sorry, it's just markers right now, but it is instead of pink, I decided to do um orange, green, and brown, and it's printed. Whoops, that was my microphone. It's printed to look like a risograph piece,
Oh, fun.
but I did it digitally and just printing it on really thick stock paper that has a lot of texture to it.
Nice.
So I just got the shipment notification that it's coming. So yay! I'll have it for the next show when we
Oh,
record.
good.
But
Excellent,
the
excellent.
other fun show news, this one, come everyone, come and listen. We have a question for all of our listeners. Would you like us to start a Discord server? Please let us know. And you can let us know on our brand new Blue Sky handle, which is hometownhaunts.bsky.social. So come join us on Blue Sky. It is lovely there. We're able to actually interact with real people, not bots or crazy trolls. And it's been a lot of fun. So come join us there and just spread the hometown haunt love there. Yay.
And you can also email us. We always want stories.
Yes, hometown haunted mail at gmail.com.
And yeah, we're always looking for new stuff, and Blue Sky is a great place to interact about this stuff without the ponderous algorithms now that are.
Yeah, you get to see everything chronologically, which is super handy. My brain
And-
loves it because I'm
and
like, yes, this is
Actually,
great.
see the people that you follow.
Yeah, you actually see the people that you follow. And there's just a lot of innovation happening over there as we speak.
Cool.
I hope
Yeah.
it stays that way.
So, but now we're going into the past.
Now
Into-
we're going into the past. We're going to the swinging 60s. And as one newspaper put the story, the saucer chase keep probers humming. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so this was a story I actually hadn't heard before, but somebody pointed it out to me, and I've had it waiting for a week that we could cover a UFO story. So we are departing our underworld gathering here, and we're going into space. All right. It is the pre-dawn hour of 5 a.m. in Portage County, Ohio. 2 county deputies, Deputy Dale Spar and Deputy Wilbur Barney Neff, are looking into an abandoned truck on the side of U.S. Route 224 near Ravenna, Ohio. While Spar is searching around the area for the driver of the truck, which he, by the way, never finds, he hears a mysterious humming sound from overhead. They are met with the sight of a massive UFO coming towards them, revealing itself as it passes over the trees and bathes the 2 men in white light. According to Spar and Neff, the UFO seemed to slightly pause as being when it was discovered by the deputies before continuing towards them. It was described in the Akron Beacon by the 2 men as looking like a head of a flashlight that was between 35 and 50 feet wide and 15 to 25 feet high, and a beam of light that appeared conical or in a cone shape coming from the bottom of the object. The white blue light was so bright that the deputies could not look directly at it. Calling into dispatch, they were first instructed by Sergeant Hank Schoenfeld to keep an eye on the object in the sky and follow it if necessary to try to identify it. Sergeant Hank Schoenfeld was wondering if the two deputies had found a government weather balloon in the skies over northeast Ohio. Overhearing dispatch, Chief Gerald Bookert, who was on patrol in nearby Mantua, heard the deputies call about the lights in the sky. He races home to get his camera and snaps 3 photos of what he describes as 2 table saucers put together. What happened next would later become movie magic. The UFO takes off, heading east towards the sunrise, as if it was playing a game of cat and mouse with Spar and Neff, who had decided to chase it with their patrol cars. In total, they chased the UFO for 86 miles from Ravenna, Ohio to Conway, Pennsylvania, going at speeds of 80 to 103 miles per hour with their lights on and sirens blaring. They made a scene through 2 states doing this. East Palestine Police Patrolman H. Wayne Houston could hear the chase over the dispatch because they were on the same signal and parked his patrol car at the intersection of routes 14 and 170 as soon as he could to see the object in the sky to his west. Originally, Houston estimated that the object was 5 miles away, but within 4 minutes, the object passed over him, and he too joined the pursuit behind Neff and Spar. Sorry, I think it's Spar. Spaur, Spar. Anyway, Houston described the object as something that looked like a melted ice cream cone with a beam of light. I like the description. Spar would explain that the UFO's outline was very distinct and that he could see the lines and details. He also believed that someone was in control of the object since it was maneuvering in the sky, not just floating there. They also described that as they got closer to the floating object, it would speed up again and get away. Once the group reached Rochester, they lost sight of the object in the sky. The switchbacks in the road and the winding terrain and hills made it difficult to keep up with it. The cars got tangled up in a mess of bridges, according to Spar. Spar would later explain, "When I came out from under the bridge, it came down and waited for us, just as though it knew these cars were following it." Now in Pennsylvania, the deputies' vehicles were running on fumes. Because it's the 1960s and they're driving boats.
I was going to
And
say,
their
it's
tire-
like
Yeah.
probably 8 miles to a gallon back
Oh,
then.
yeah. Not only that, but their tires were balding. So they pulled into the Atlantic Surface Station where they were met by Conway Patrolman Frank Pazel. Oh my goodness.
Panzanella.
That it's a typo. There's no N there. It's
Oh,
Pazanella. There we go.
okay.
Pazanella, a Korean veteran, had been observing the object approaching his position at the gas station for at least 30 minutes. He commented that although he was familiar with U.S. military aircraft, this unidentified object did not look to be one of them. The four men, Panizella, Houston, Neff, and Spar, watched the object move across the sky from that gas station. The object hovered and then rose out of sight, taking about 10 minutes to do so. Spar recounted, "We were closer than I ever wanted to be again. All 4 men returned home without identifying what they had just seen." Hundreds of people around Ohio and Pennsylvania also reported seeing the shiny saucer in the sky and hearing a steady, faint humming sound. And I don't know how many of our listeners are in flight paths, but I'm in a helicopter flight path. And boy, is it spooky when you're not expecting to hear like a really low helicopter coming by and you hear this low hum. And when they get really low, like almost hit our mountaintop, things start shaking because of the vibrations from these helicopters.
Wow.
There's an air base not too far away from here. And once in a while, we'll get the larger twin turbine helicopters come by. And boy, howdy, if they're really close to our summit, they will shake the items in our house.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I really don't like it. I am now on flight aware just
Yeah.
to see where all these things are originating from. There was, of course, aftermath. This was a complete investigation. Initially, the local newspapers and fellow officers supported the men in what they had witnessed that morning of April 17th, 1966. Woo. The attitude was, we're not sure what it was. We just want to know. And Spar had contacted the local airports to ask if it could have been anything in flight that they weren't aware of, and he got a negative from everyone. The federal government learned of this chase, and Police Chief Gerald Bookhart's photos of the object, and instructed him not to release them to the public because panic and all that. Ignoring their request, he released them through the Akron Beacon on April 18th, 1966, the following day, in that edition of the newspaper. And we now have those thanks to him just going, I'm going to do it anyway. Immediately, the federal government visited all the men involved in the case and in the chase to question them what they had seen and encountered that morning. Major Hector Quinatella, oh, the names tonight, who was the head of Project Blue Book's investigation team, came out of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and was involved in the case. So just a refresher for our listeners that may not know what Project Blue Book is. It was a code name for the study of unidentified flying objects by the United States Air Force. The study began March of 1952 and continued until December 1969, headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, or we call it Wright-Pat, around Cincinnati. The study was initially headed by Captain Edward J. Rupert, with the purpose of determining if UFOs were a threat or to national security. The project collected over 12,000 UFO reports and dismissed the majority of them as either 1. Natural phenomena, such as clouds, or Venus. 2. Mistaken known aircraft. 3. Outright hoaxes. And 4. Creations of mass hysteria.
Interesting that they don't have a fifth thing for seeing some of the aircraft that was being tested back then.
Right?
Yeah.
For example, the stealth bomber was seen a lot, and people thought it was UFO.
Yeah.
Yeah. Y'all just crazy seeing things in the sky. Ain't nothing up there.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Stop talking like my family from Indiana.
Sorry.
Anyway.
Hey, I'm from Missouri, so the accent comes naturally. Sorry.
Yeah. It's all right. Sometimes I say y'all, and around here people stop and stare at me. And I'm like, it's 14 years in Cincinnati. Y'all comes out. Any rate, after reviewing the eyewitness accounts and the government's conclusion was that the officers had not in fact seen a UFO, but instead a mix of two different things: an echo communication satellite and the planet Venus.
Oh, because that moves.
Planet Venus. Venus. Venus madness. Or is that a euphemism for something?
No, they really honestly thought these trained police officers and military veterans had just seen a planet and mistaken it for an actual aircraft.
Because Venus also has a cone of light coming out of it.
Very well known.
Looks like a melted ice cream cone.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The government said that what Neff and Spar had first seen and pursued was the communication satellite, only to be followed up by the planet Venus when they watched the UFO in Pensacola and Houston in Pennsylvania. Oh, that was a sentence. The conclusion, of course, ran contrary to what the officers had all witnessed, including civilian witnesses, mind you. How could 4 men who not only had military backgrounds and trained observers of the sky confuse a communication satellite which floats in the stratosphere outside hundreds of miles, hundreds at least miles, hundreds of miles away,
and is also a tiny little dot of light.
It's a tiny little dot of light. If you've seen the International
Venus
Space
is even smaller.
Yeah. Like, I've seen the ISS fly by. It was fast, but I wasn't going to mistake it for a 35-foot.
Last time I saw Venus in the sky, it was not moving.
flying
No,
flashlight.
it never moves.
Yeah, it was the moon. Anyway, they wouldn't have confused it for a planet. I mean, Venus, yes, it does move across the sky. It is super slow.
Not that fast.
Yeah, it's not that fast. The government investigators made a mockery of the officers, and one by one, the witnesses fell silent and refused to talk about the incident. So, according to a 1996 Cincinnati Enquirer article, Booker stated that the entire situation should be forgotten about. He's the one that took the photos. He's like, forget about it. He never talked about it again. Neff refused to talk about the events of that night after his friends and fellow officers just made fun of what he had seen. Penzanella had his phone removed due to constant calls and harassment about what he had seen that morning. Drastically, Houston changed his name and moved away after being ridiculed by the community that he had faithfully served. But Spar continued to speak out about the event, seemingly haunted by the memories of that morning and wanting answers for the amazing thing that he had witnessed. By October of that year, in 1966, the world seemed to be against his claims of what he had witnessed. His mental state changed for the worse, and he became paranoid that the UFO was following him around. He lost his job and his marriage all within 6 months of witnessing this event.
Aww.
So, UFO enthusiasts have bantered around basically for the past 50 years, 60 years, what the four men had actually seen that morning. And the leading theory is that they may have seen a weather balloon. The shape and size were in line with what the officers had described, with the type of weather balloons being deployed at the time. And the only problem with the weather balloon theory is that the object traveled far too fast for that to be the case, even though they can travel rather low to the ground. Like the men were reporting that it was only a few hundred feet off the ground, like 200 feet. Weather balloons can go that far down because they kind of bob up and down with the heat inside the balloon, essentially. But they don't move that fast. They can't travel hundreds of miles within minutes.
Or stop and wait for you to catch up
or
with
stop
it.
and wait for you, exactly. And it doesn't account for the glowing light emitted from the object, which they all reported.
Was the
As for-
light on constantly, or did it like
It
go off
seems
and on?
from the way that I read it, it was basically on the entire time, like a
Okay.
giant flashlight. As for the Hollywood connection, Steven Spielberg, who is from Cincinnati, was interested in making a sci-fi movie after the success of Jaws. He worked with ufologist, astronomer, and scientific advisor to the U.S. government, J. Allen Hynek, to write the screenplay for the 1977 movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This police chase was depicted in the movie that was made in 1977. The only difference is that at the end, in the movie scene, the police cars crash, and none of the officers here crashed their cars. They were all safe.
In
There
the
were no
70s, all movies had car crashes in them, and it was a sort of trope.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
you could
they're
show a
exciting.
car with, yeah, you couldn't show really a car not crashing.
Or
True.
going off a cliff and then
Yeah.
halfway down
mean,
it blows
was
up and
just sort of
fire.
Yeah, it was sort of a thing.
Yeah, it was
So
sort
that's
of
not
a thing.
surprising. But
Yeah.
did you hear about the UFO sightings in Jaws?
No, I did not. Were there UFO sightings
So
in
one of
Jaws?
the reasons that Steven Spielberg wanted to make Close Encounters was when they were filming Jaws, they were seeing lights in the sky, and they had some of their film confiscated by the government.
I had
Whoa.
no idea.
And so you can see in some of the scenes in Jaws some lights and stuff, not that many. And
Yeah.
that was what kindled his interest in doing Close Encounters. And obviously, this story really played into that.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, Troy and his high school friends started a UFO club in Ashland, Kentucky.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
that's
in
awesome.
the 70s, and they used to go out and watch stuff. They said they saw some stuff, but
Yeah?
he never said they saw, like, but it was all lights, and
Uh-huh.
stuff.
Yeah.
And it's always hard to say lights, and although back in the 70s there were fewer lights in the sky than there are now, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, now where there's so much junk circling the earth with lights on it, But back then there was a lot less.
Right.
Yeah.
And so seeing lights was a little bit more rare. But I mean, everybody was, because, when was the Project Blue Book television show on? I think it was on around that time. And
Mhm.
every UFOs were super popular, especially because when were the abduction stories of Barney and
Betty
Betty
Hill.
Hill? Was that in the 60s or
I
70s?
want to say the late 60s. I will look that up in a second.
I mean, that's not that far from the 70s. I mean, there's
True.
a little bit of a sort of mania about UFO sightings and that sort of thing. So possibly as you get more people aware of it, and that's probably true with any sort of phenomenon like this, the more there's media about it, the more people see it.
It was 1961.
Okay, so it's older than I thought.
And I love their family photo because they have their Dutch hound with them.
Oh,
Aw.
I hope the
Yeah.
hound wasn't abducted.
I don't know. I hope not either.
I thought they
Now I
just
have an
like
image of it.
cows.
Up
Yeah.
it goes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's that entire it's interesting. The 60s and 70s was when horror movies were really taking off, like especially the
Mhm.
slasher horror movies. But then you at the same time you had a lot of UFO stories. They were almost
Yes.
fighting in cinema for attention.
And it seems to be a lot of these sort of possession movies and stuff. Like,
Mhm.
there's a lot of commonalities between sort of abduction and possession, and is that's probably something you've noticed. Is there some sort of sociological?
Yeah, I think we've talked about it on the show or touched on it a few times that it is kind of remarkable that when people have had um body, the old Hank syndrome where you're not able to move. Why am I
Yeah,
coming up with
sleep paralysis or something
Thank
like
you.
that.
When they're having a sleep paralysis episode, they depending on your persuasion, people will either report short gray, large gray, black-eyed uh, aliens, or they will see a short skull staring at them. And I'm like, wow, those two things, when you layer them on top of each other, look
Are the
super
same.
similar. And so, like, I'm sure I would see a skull because that would just make me so excited. But other people I know would rather see an alien because the idea of death scares them. So they would rather see
Interesting.
that. So a lot of times I think, and this is one reason why you'll see them at paranormal events, UFOs and ghost enthusiasts really do have a Venn diagram. And our spooky, strange experiences kind of do line up. And one of the things I love about Doctor Who is that it kind of merges the paranormal with alien stuff so freaking well. Like the don't blink thing is just perfect where
Yeah.
they're aliens but they're still scary. So and a lot of other episodes. But anyway,
So,
yeah,
Kat,
it
you're going to be in Alaska again this year.
yes.
Go out at night and see if you can't see anything floating around out there, because apparently stuff went down in Nome, Alaska, with white owls.
Yes. there was a plane that crashed in just outside of Nome.
Yeah,
Last
just
week.
this week. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That was really
Dad.
sad.
I'm sorry that happened, but no, not that. UFOs.
Oh,
Have you
well,
not seen the movie The Fourth Kind
I have not.
with I think Mila Jovovich? She was in the Resident Evil movies.
So, fun
Yeah.
fact, I don't watch a lot of sci-fi movies.
Yeah.
And I tend to stay with my horror and paranormal ghosties. But I can try.
I think I've talked about it before. The movie scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
But apparently, and I can't remember the decade it happened in, people were being abducted from Nome, Alaska. And before they were being abducted, they would see white owls sitting on their
Yeah.
windows, you know,
So
and
one of the
looking at
things I
them.
do joke about when we're at the camp is I'm like, hey, let me know if you see any white owls because
Yes.
that may mean that you got abducted.
Yes.
I think wasn't that a joke that was in the alien sitcom that you had me watch, Christina?
Yeah, it was. It
Yeah.
was that was the one.
Yeah.
That was a funny show.
That was.
Which so Resident Alien?
No,
No.
No.
what was the one called? Something. It had the guy that used to be on Daily Show.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm seeing his name right now. It begins with a C.
Clearly it made an impact on us.
Yeah, that we can't remember. Well, I blame it on we see so much media that
Yeah.
I mean, you'll think of it later, but we just don't have the recall like that. When I
Not
grew up, there's a
anymore.
lot less media, so that's
Yeah.
why we have everything memorized because there's only like 6 things, and now
Also,
there's
COVID happened and it just stole our brains. So
Well,
yeah,
you know,
I think it was called People of Earth, and it was
People of
Oh.
Earth. Yes.
Okay.
and
I'll
Thank you.
write that
what's
down.
the guy's name? It's CE something. He's a comedian. I can look up his name.
Yeah.
But yeah, that had a lot of interesting. I mean, it was by the people that do the shadows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What we do in the shadows?
Yeah, there's some link between the writers or something.
Oh yeah,
I wanna
because
say
they
it's the
do
same.
also have another paranormal show that what we do in the shadows people produced. It takes place in New Zealand, and I can't watch it right now because it's not available for streaming in the US unless I
Oh,
buy it.
Wyatt Cenac. So I had
Oh yeah.
it plays the lead in that, and he's very funny. And he was the guy that starred in it.
Resident Alien is also very funny.
I've
With
heard that's
Alan
really
Tudyk.
Alan
good.
Tudyk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah. You know, it's very. I will. Anymore, it's rare to watch something and it really like the comedy hit you where you're just really laughing. You know what I mean? There's something about
Mhm.
when you get older, you just kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm just jaded. But Alan Tudyk, man, he gets me. He is so damn funny, and it was a good it was a good show. I think anyone should watch it since we're talking
I've heard
about
it's really
aliens.
good. I just
Yeah.
haven't. There's just too much to watch,
There
and
is.
I end up mostly listening to audiobooks because
Oh,
Oh,
and
you're
Christina muted
muted.
herself. It's a ghost. Meanwhile, it's Wellington Paranormal. That's the show that takes
Wellington
place in New Zealand.
Paranormal. Okay.
And it's within the what we do in the shadows universe.
My God, I
Oh,
still haven't
Christina.
seen the TV
I was
show, but
reaching
I
to look
love the
that up.
movie.
I'll have to cut this out so
Yeah.
that I could see what the relationship was, and I accidentally tugged on my microphone.
It's your cursed microphone cord.
You know what I've been watching?
Mm-hmm.
The Roku channel has a bunch of 80s shows
I've
on
got
there.
another problem because my speakers are.
And I've been rewatching things that I watched when I was a kid, and some of it does not hold up well.
Yeah. I've been watching Taskmaster.
Taskmaster?
It's on Pluto TV for free. And though, warning, there are a ton of ads. And it's a British game show and that is all comedians that are on it. And it started in 2015, and there's 2 seasons a year. So they're on season 29 right now.
Oh, wow.
I think.
Okay.
It's been 10 years. I guess it's season 19.
Wow. That's still
at
a
any
lot.
rate, there's a lot. And the seasons vary in episode length. Some of them are only 5 episodes. Some of them are full 10. And like Noel Fielding, that you know from the Great British Bake Off, he's in season
he's
4.
good.
He what?
And he's in season 4.
Okay. I do like him.
Yeah, he's great. And he's so...
I like the Mighty Boosh.
Yeah, the Mighty Boosh. You'll love that. If you want to see him and get an idea for the show, watch season 4. They're not chronological at all. And his absurdist humor is just peak there.
Yeah.
And so that's what's been getting us through the first month of 2025. First 3 weeks.
At least till we can move. But
And
we also have a haunt this week.
Yay!
yeah.
What's the haunt? I am interested in hearing
Yes.
about it.
And it was interesting because I was at my in-laws, and my mother-in-law said that her aunt asked if we still were looking for ghost stories.
Oh,
And she had been on, yeah, I know, I thought that was really sweet. And
Yeah.
so this is from my mother-in-law, whose name is Patty. And she said, my Aunt Betty lives on a plot of land that has been in the family since the 1800s. And this is in Ashland, Kentucky.
wow.
I think it's Ashland. It's in that area. I don't know if it actually is
Mhm.
Ashland, because you've got, like in Cincinnati, you've got all these little townettes around
Yeah.
a city. And it has been known to be haunted. And she said people sometimes are afraid to walk around the property after dark and stuff. And that
Oh.
sounds very lore. It made me think what she was telling me when we talked to Mark about his lore, and people in the holler telling stories.
Mhm.
And she said, we had a previous haunt from them that their great 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 grandfather had been chained in the attic with dementia, and people mentioned hearing chains. And her aunt said, so her aunt's husband died just a couple years ago. And so she was sleeping, and all of a sudden she bolted up in bed because she heard a man yelling. And her dog heard it too. And they were looking around, and it was through the wall. And her husband would often wake up in the middle of the night, obviously another dementia kind of thing, and be confused and yell. And so she was convinced that was him again.
Oh, wow.
Now, and she thought the dog had heard it. And that does sound very scary. And one wonders, was it a ghost, or it could have been a dream too? Now she says the dog was responding too,
Mhm.
but the dog could have been responding to her.
Yeah. Wow.
Not to, I mean, maybe it was him contacting her. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? Is that being woken up in the middle of the night like that? Is that a common haunt?
I would think it's it is, but there's also, like you were alluding to, there's actual reasons why, like, it could be happening. So, uh, she could have been dreaming about somebody yelling, and then when she woke up, her brain hadn't completely caught up to her, to her being awake and still hearing what was happening in the dream. Have you ever had a dream that was so intense that you wake up and you kind of are you don't know where you're at type of thing? It could be that.
Mm-hmm.
It also could be something that was happening externally, woke her up, and it felt like was a dream, and then that would be why her dog was responding. If there's a history of haunting, it could be a ghost. There's a lot. I would want to know more stories from that
Yeah.
place
I know
before
we need to
being
do a
able to
ghost hunt
say,
there.
yeah, before being able to say, yeah, that was something paranormal, because that is a spooky story nonetheless. It's
I mean, it would
alarming to
freak you
wake
out
up.
in the middle of the night. You
Yeah.
wake up and you hear yelling. And
On
one
the
thing
other side of the wall, did her
it was
husband roam
that is
outside?
it was in their living room. So she was
Oh,
in the bedroom, and
gotcha.
apparently the other side of the wall was where he was a lot. Probably a lot of times when people are at home, if they're not in a nursing home, they are no longer in a bedroom because they can't be.
Right.
They usually are in a living room or something like that.
It's easier
Uh,
to take care of them. Sometimes the furniture, like
mhm.
because you'll rent medical equipment, it's
Mhm.
easier to put it in a living room
Right.
And
than
I
it
think that
is.
might have been a similar situation. I'll have to confirm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was outside the house.
Well, there's
No, it
spooky
was
things that
inside.
happen outside.
Yeah.
Well, we did mention the outside because she
Yeah.
was basically laying the groundwork, saying that whole area people think is haunted, and that
Yeah.
actually feels more like the stories in the holler, and like a family having some sort of
Mhm.
So other
common.
than the uncle being chained in the attic, or the great
Mhm.
grandfather,
Yes, this
what
was the
else
same
has
house, I
right?
guess.
What else has happened on that property? Do you know? Is there any family
I'm gonna have to ask a little bit
stories
more
about
because I
that?
I probed about it, and I didn't get an answer as to why people thought that it was a place to be avoided, like if there was some
Mhm.
incident that made people afraid to go there.
Yeah.
That would be good. That this is gonna need more investigation.
Definitely.
I think
Definitely.
so, because I'd like to know a little bit more about. I mean, the thing that's really interesting is that this property's been through several generations of family,
Mm-hmm.
and so perhaps, and I think this great great grandfather was actually an immigrant to this country.
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
think from Germany.
Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting story. I want to hear more stories from this place too.
Yeah.
So,
I'll find out
um,
what town it is too, because
yeah.
it would be interesting to kind of check it out. Because I have heard some more sort of stories around there where people have seen stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will definitely investigate that.
Well, do you
I
want to
mean,
hear a ghost story from here?
Yes.
yeah. So you have a new ghost story.
We have a new ghost story. It happened on Saturday night.
Oh wow, this is like hot off the press.
Yeah. So, it's my house used to be a daycare for our listeners, and actually the room that I'm in right now used to be where infants would sleep, which is super creepy. But so we have my kiddos' play area is down here, and we will hear toys and things being played with when everyone's accounted for upstairs. And so the basement is where the playroom is, and it's at the very base of our stairs, and at the top of our stairs is actually where our living room is. So if I'm watching TV, I can hear anything that's happening in the play area. And on Saturday night, I'm sitting watching TV, and I hear kiddos dump truck toy turn on, and
Ooh.
it is one of these where you have to move it to make it turn on. And I hear it go, and I'm like, well, that's strange. So I do a quick head count. Kiddo's asleep in bed. Um, Partner's playing video games in the office on the second floor. All dogs are sleeping with me on the couch. And I'm like, okay, I know we don't have mice or anything because we don't have any we don't have any residue or mice poo. We have nothing being gnawed on. Um, as I've had mice before as pets, we've had mice infestations before in other houses. You hear them at night in the walls. That's not happening here. So I go downstairs to investigate, and the truck has moved a slight little bit. Now, a dog could have knocked it. I will say that going down to the backyard, they could have knocked into it during that. So I'm not calling that evidence, but I jumped around it. I tried flicking it. I tried to make it turn on, and nothing I did, like I clapped in front of it to see if it was sound sensitive, jumped, tapped my foot, I poked it, and poking it turned it on.
Huh.
So this is the third time we've had activity down there at night that we can't explain what it is. And it's been different toys. One happened over a holiday break where suddenly um something fell, like a ball fell from a storage area. So it had to have been pushed up and over a basket and down onto the floor. And then it crashed into some Legos. So it made a mighty loud now sound. And I also checked. We do have earthquakes. We are in Washington State, but none of them were significant enough to cause anything like that. You're looking at like 0.7.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and also, if it would have been significant, we would have felt it. So,
Have you felt any presence of someone there?
I'm not sure if I mentioned it. There's two little kids here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you've
There,
mentioned it. Yeah.
yeah, there's two little kids. They did not die here. This was just a happy place, and they returned to it. And the fact
Oh,
that there is a
interesting.
bunch of toys that are for their age set, like one is 6 and the other one was like 9 or 10. They're just over the moon. There's Legos everywhere. There's a dump truck that makes noise. It's just there's dogs. It's just if you're a little kid, this is an excellent playground. So they like to play with this stuff from time to time.
So you
Have-
don't know what their origin is.
Have
They
you
were
se-
just they lived around here in the neighborhood, and they went to preschool, not preschool, but daycare here.
Mhm.
And I suspect they died of cancer
Oh.
childhood cancer a little bit
Aw.
later, and
Oh.
that's why they come back.
Have you
So
seen them?
no, these are just hunches, which I know super scientific. Just-
Well, I mean, if you could
but
scientifically explain everything that you see and hear.
that's true. But yeah, they hang around. They don't come into my studio too much. I think it freaks them out with all the skulls that are around,
Mm.
and it's just because I have like sugar skulls that people have given me. I have a haggis statue, which is like this feathered
Neat.
mythological creature. I also have spirit salt, which a medium gave me that's supposed to ward off ghosts. So maybe that's
That
I
might keep them away.
I don't know. I just don't think they like this room, even though there's a bunch of comics in it. They just don't like it.
Which is the playroom, the no room?
No, that was where they would sleep. That's
Okay.
where all their cots would be. But yeah, that's the no room, which is now our storage unit. Like
Okay.
that's where we put all of the decorations and like photo albums and stuff that we're
Wow.
slowly fireproofing.
Good.
We're getting
That's
we're
an
slowly
exciting
purchasing
story.
fireproof lockers. But
Is there a way you can like research and find out who was at the daycare? But it was
there-
open for a long time.
it was open for like 30 years.
Oh,
That's a long time.
that's a very long
yeah.
time.
It's a very long time. I mean,
It'd
probably
take a lot of work.
that would take a lot of work, and unfortunately, I don't have that kind of time anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there are a few older families that live around here who had kids go here,
Mhm.
including one of the kids across the street was one of the last kids that attended daycare here, and but he didn't report anything strange at all. He actually had a lot of fun here. He said it was really fun playing in the backyard. So,
Aw.
Oh.
but yeah, there's so much this part of Washington just has so many people move in and out so fast. There's a lot of turnover. So that tracing those
Would
people
be
down
hard.
would be hard. And some of them would be my age too. So
Does-
that would be strange. It's like, hey, do you remember going to daycare here? Was there anything creepy? Like,
No, but does your son ever see anything anymore?
no, he doesn't. And which is fascinating because I'm getting more stories about what we called Mr. Bill, the ghost that was in our previous house.
Mhm.
And
Oh.
one of the times he turned around before it was bedtime and we're doing our little bedtime routine. And he turns to me and he goes, I'm so glad Mr. Bill's not here. And I'm like, was Mr. Bill doing something? And he goes, yeah, Mr. Bill would sneak into his bedroom at night and scare him while he was in his bed.
Aw.
And I'm like,
Jerk.
Mr. Bill was not supposed to do that.
No.
So I'm not happy with Mr. Bill. So he was
sounds like
supposed
he
to
wasn't
stay.
very nice.
He was a mischievous guy. But yeah, he liked to scare Cy. I think he was trying to play with him. And like he's Mr. Bill was a spirit who was alive during the 30s. He grew up in the house that we lived in, and I think he was trying to play peekaboo or other like childhood games. But when you come off as a shadow man, it doesn't have the same feel.
It's not really as yeah.
Yeah, it's
jolly
not
or
the
fun.
charming bowler cap wearing man that he was. Like I could see him, but the way that little dude interpreted him was as a shadow man. And I'm like, those very different things.
Wow.
But here, little dude has not run into the other two kids.
How did Cy get his name? Mr. Bill.
Oh, I named him Mr. Bill.
You named him Mr. Bill.
I Mr.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not in reference to what was it, the 90s claymation Mr. Bill.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
It
what I
wasn't-
always see Mr. Bill when I
Mr.
think.
Bill.
Now,
Yeah.
did when
name
did
was
he
Bill.
first mention him? When you moved, or was that when he first mentioned Bill, or when you still lived there? Did he
No,
mention?
when we still lived there, and little dude would mention the guy in the hallway.
Mm.
And I was just like, oh, that's Mr. Bill. Because I encountered Bill the first night we stayed in that house. We were camped out in the bedroom and in August. And in Cincinnati in August is super humid and hot. And the house was from 1915. And we're in the room and it suddenly got frigid. And we were in the bedroom that was literally the furthest away from the air conditioning unit. So we were getting the remnants of tepid air from our AC. It was always boiling in that room. And then suddenly it just got frigid to the point where I could see my breath. And I'm like, oh, somebody's here right now. And I look at our door frame and there is a man who's wearing a mustache and a bowler hat, and he's wearing a three-piece suit with a white shirt and then like dark gray linen vest, suit coat, and pants. That is very kind of a 19 teens, early 20s look.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, it's Bill. And just when I looked at him, Bill was the name that came out. And I'm like, you are not ever going into any of our bedrooms. You will stay in that hallway. And he was supposed to stay in that hallway. And I'm like, if you freak out my dogs, and at the little time, little dude did not exist. I'm like, if you freak out my partner or my dogs, I am going to send you places. And he eventually did freak out little dude a few times.
Well, if he's just poking his head in, he's still in the hallway.
Yeah, that was the interpretation I got from him. And I was like, you little son of a gun. What we do see is Wheatley from time to time still.
Aww.
Which is for our listeners, Wheatley was our first dog, and he was a social therapy dog. And he passed away in 2021. And a little dude will still see Wheatley from time to time. So once in a while, he'll look at me and he goes, Wheatley's playing outside. And I'm like, that's good. He can play outside with the bobcats. He'll freak them out.
So he wanted to stay with you.
Yeah, he's still with us.
That's awesome.
So he just drops in from time to time. Maybe he's the one moving the toys around.
Oh, you never know if he's still around. I mean, I was just thinking we should do another pet episode.
Yeah,
I was wondering how often people's pets kind of follow them and how often they leave.
Yeah,
because you said your rabbit disappeared instantly.
Yeah, the rabbits were like, they passed on immediately. They're like, we're out, bye. But
I want to know if Betsy's still around.
I don't get Betsy still around, but
she's when like, bitch, I'm
sure when Chris and I visit, we can tell you better.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't get her immediately, but Jensen also has a big personality, so it's hard to read things with Jensen around.
Is it outsized of his body?
Yeah, it's just like
yes,
large area perimeter.
It is his house now.
Yeah,
Clover's not allowed in his bed. He has pushed her out of her bed.
No,
I'm sorry if that was too loud. I didn't mean that. But he'll come in. Clover will try to cuddle with me while I'm in my bed.
Mm-hmm.
And either he's sleeping at the end of the bed and I didn't realize it, and he'll come over and bite Clover.
Mm-hmm.
Or he comes into the room and jumps up on the bed and bites her. It's like, no, you can't be there. That's mine.
The biting is probably a phase too, because kittens can be very bitey.
Oh, he's very bitey.
Yeah,
he saw me struggling earlier.
Mm-hmm.
He was biting on all the cords on the computer, and the only way to stop him from biting was holding him. But then he started biting this.
Yeah, I was wondering how long that was going to last.
In my hands, and yeah. Although I like struggling with him because it's fun. And hence all the scars on my hands now from scratches.
I look forward to meeting him later this month.
I hope he comes out.
Yeah.
And doesn't hide the entire weekend. Last time Chris was here, he hid the entire weekend.
Aww.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happens sometimes. He'll grow out of a lot of that.
Yeah. Especially with like more visitors to the house.
Yeah, having more people over helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But anyway, on that
means
note,
I have to clean.
On that note,
all right.
Next week at a clean.
We'll ask
Oh
you, Jen.
no, I have been preparing all month for your visit.
Oh,
I'm
Aw.
sorry, since January
wow.
because I can't do it all at once.
That's true. It's small little bits. That's how I
Yeah.
clean my house. It's like
I didn't
small
used to
bits.
be that way, but anymore, I would be ashamed to show you my house at the moment. Let's just say that.
All right.
So,
On that note, everyone, we will be asking Jen next week how things are going. But
We'll have a
thank you
cat
for
report.
joining us on another fantastic episode of the Hometown Haunts podcast. You can find us. My iPad has fallen asleep. Wow, it's been a while since I've done these outros. You can find us on Blue Sky at hometownhaunts.bsky.social. And also, please feel free to email us at hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com with your own personal ghost stories from your neck of the woods. Are you having objects moving around in your house like I am? Are you having people yelling through walls like Christina's mother-in-law? We want to hear them. UFO stories too are great. So let's see. For Christina, Jen, and myself, good night and stay spooky.
Bye.
Bye.